The story begins in New Jersey's Pine Barrens forest, where we see a couple, Dale and Erica, out on a camping trip. Dale seems a little lost, but the two are still enjoying the adventure. Along the way, Dale stumbles upon a disturbing sight: animal remains scattered on the ground in horrible condition. Erica sees it too. Dale quickly calls the authorities, but before they can react, something starts moving toward them. Panicked, they run. Erica crashes into a tree, and when Dale turns, he realizes the creature following them is actually a badly hurt deer. As he approaches it, something unseen suddenly attacks the couple. The scene then shifts to the Vineyard family. Richard Vineyard has planned a camping trip with his wife Cynthia, his daughter Sadie, and his younger son Danny. Cynthia is Richard's second wife, and it's clear Sadie doesn't really like her. Richard hopes this trip will bring the family closer together. He also intends to scatter his late father's ashes in the Pine Barrens. We also learn they once had a dog named Oscar, who Danny adored. Oscar recently went missing, and Danny has been putting up posters, still hoping he'll return. Richard, however, believes the old dog may never come back. After convincing Sadie to join, the Vineyard family finally heads to the Pine Barrens. Cynthia, a nurse by profession, joins Richard, who is especially excited. His father often brought him camping here as a child. On the drive, Richard announces a strict rule: no phones during the trip. Sadie isn't happy, but soon she starts reading about the local legend of the Jersey Devil. Richard quickly reassures Danny that it's nothing more than a scary story. Not long after, their car nearly crashes when a badly injured deer stumbles onto the road. Richard is unsettled, but brushes it off, assuming wild animals were responsible. He refuses to let anything ruin the trip. At the forest station, a ranger helps them register and gives directions to avoid getting lost. Richard mentions the injured deer, but the ranger explains it could be because of nearby fencing. He advises Richard to relax and enjoy time with his family. Meanwhile, Sadie hangs out with some boys, which Richard quietly disapproves of, but doesn't confront. Later, when they reach the campsite, Richard is surprised to see it overcrowded. As a child, he remembered this place as peaceful and isolated. He dislikes the change, but has no choice but to stay. From this point on, Richard's behavior begins to shift. He seems more irritable and confused, and this state only grows worse as the story continues. While setting up the tent, Danny pokes through his bag and finds both a knife and the urn carrying his grandfather's ashes. Soon after, Richard grows dizzy and collapses. Before falling, he thinks he sees a shadow behind Danny. In that moment, flashes from his childhood return, memories of being in these very woods and sensing something dangerous watching him. Cynthia rushes to help, but Richard can't clearly explain what's happening. Later that evening, Cynthia encourages him to join the others at the campfire. Richard prefers staying away from people, but reluctantly agrees. Around the fire, a boy named Ryan begins telling the famous local legend of the Jersey Devil. According to the story, many years ago there was a woman known as Mother Leeds, a woman who worked as a sex worker. She was poor, unmarried, and already raising 12 children, alone in a small cabin deep in the forest. The town was tired of supporting her and warned that if she had another child, she and her family would be cast out. Mother Leeds fell ill and became isolated, and rumors spread that she was practicing witchcraft. Soon, it was revealed she was pregnant with her 13th child. When the townsfolk discovered this, they forced her out despite her desperate pleas. Angry and broken, she cursed the elders, the town, and even the Pine Barrens itself. She claimed her unborn baby wasn't human at all, but the child of the devil. One night, Mother Leeds finally gave birth, but the child wasn't human. It was a monstrous creature with the body parts of different animals, said to be the devil's offspring. As soon as it was born, it took the lives of Mother Leeds and 2 of her children. Since then, stories have spread of the creature haunting the Pine Barrens, with many claiming they've seen it. Richard grows tense during the tale, worried Danny might get scared. He tells Ryan to stop, but the others are fascinated. Suddenly, Ryan's friend jumps out in a devil costume to spook everyone. Most laugh, but Richard explodes in anger, overreacting because the story has triggered visions from his past. That night, Richard dreams of being chased by the Jersey Devil across a barren field. He wakes outside his tent, realizing he had been sleepwalking. Cynthia tries to calm him, but when Richard catches her using a phone, he snaps. Convinced she might be hiding something, he grabs it and becomes furious. Cynthia reassures him of her love and loyalty, but Richard, in rage, hurls the phone away. While searching for it, Richard stumbles upon a dead animal hanging from a tree. The next morning, he wakes with a painful, fresh wound on his hand, something he hides from his family. Meanwhile, Sadie grows closer to Ryan, and during their walk, we learn Ryan's friend Zach has been missing since last night. For now, they assume he just went off on his own. But Richard grows more uneasy. Surrounded by crowds of campers, he insists on moving deeper into the woods with Cynthia and the kids. Just then, Sheriff Winters arrives to speak with him. Sheriff Winters asks Richard if he noticed anything strange the previous night. Did he come out of his tent at night? But Richard lies and says no. Cynthia is shocked, knowing he had been outside. The sheriff returns Cynthia's phone, which Richard had thrown away, and quietly studies Richard with suspicion. The sheriff also notices the urn Richard carries, holding his father's ashes. Cynthia then learns from the sheriff about the earlier incident we saw at the film's beginning. The authorities had written it off as a bear attack. This worries her, realizing how dangerous venturing deeper into the forest could be. Sadie isn't happy either, but Richard refuses to listen. Determined, he leads them further toward Oswego Point, a quieter part of the woods where he wants to scatter the ashes. As they pass through, we, the audience, see Zach's badly damaged body hidden nearby, though the family remains unaware. Hours later, Cynthia suspects Richard is lost, though he insists they're close. Suddenly, Sadie hears a faint radio and discovers another empty campsite. When she looks further, she screams. There lies the rotting corpse of a dog. It seems the animal had been tied up and starved to death, a disturbing sight for everyone. Richard, already unstable, imagines it to be their missing dog, Oscar. In reality, it's just a hallucination. He drags the carcass away so they can camp there, despite Cynthia and Sadie's protests. Richard insists they stay, warning that rain is coming and they'll be stranded if they continue. Cynthia knows how important this trip is for Richard, so she avoids arguing. But soon, Sadie notices an old torn tent nearby, ripped apart as if by a wild animal. The family grows uneasy. Meanwhile, Richard feels constant movement around him, jumping at the slightest sound. His childhood trauma in these woods seems to be resurfacing. Gripping his knife, he investigates, only to find Ryan, who had followed Sadie's message to meet them. Angry, Richard demands to know if Ryan truly believes in the Jersey Devil. He claims the real legend is different. Mother Leeds' 13th child was born normal, but she offered it as a sacrifice to the devil, who accepted it. Richard then reveals something chilling. He insists he saw the Jersey Devil himself as a boy. Ryan is unsettled, especially when Richard begins hearing strange noises that Ryan cannot. After this, it's not shown what happened to Ryan, where he went, or what Richard said to him. Later, we see Richard with his family. Richard lashes out at Sadie, confusing her and worrying Cynthia. Richard confides to Cynthia that he hears whispers and feels watched, but only he can sense it. Cynthia comforts him, promising they'll head back once the rain stops, and Richard reluctantly agrees. Later, Cynthia notices Richard holding a diary he found in an abandoned camp, filled with strange drawings and symbols. She brushes it off, but then Richard confesses something devastating. He took the life of their missing dog, Oscar. He explains the dog's behavior had become violent, and he feared it might hurt Sadie or Danny. The injury on his hand, he admits, came from Oscar biting him. Cynthia is heartbroken by the revelation. As a nurse, Cynthia begins to suspect Richard's worsening condition might be caused by rabies from Oscar's bite. Quietly, she slips Sadie her phone so she can contact Ryan, but his number is unreachable. Sadie remains worried about him and wanders off searching for signal, only to find Ryan's phone ringing nearby. Before she can process it, she senses someone else's presence and runs back to camp in panic. Seeing her shaken, Cynthia grows even more concerned. She checks on Richard, whose wound is keeping him restless. His behavior is erratic, almost like he isn't in control. When Cynthia tries to give him medicine, he lashes out, insisting he'll be fine by morning. But clearly, something is very wrong. Richard is plagued by disturbing visions of a creature. By morning, his condition worsens, feverish, trembling, and convinced something lurks outside. Stepping out, he sees the very devil he spoke of, the Jersey Devil. Terrified, he screams. Cynthia rushes to him and finds him on the ground, trembling and insisting he saw the devil. But from his delirious state, it's impossible to tell if he's seeing reality or hallucinations. His fever spikes dangerously high. Cynthia realizes this is no longer just paranoia. He's sick and getting worse. She tells the children their father is ill and they must leave the forest as soon as possible. As they move forward, Cynthia finally manages to get a call through for help. But before she can explain, Danny's terrified scream cuts through the fog. At the same time, Richard is missing. Cynthia and Sadie rush to search, but visibility is low. That's when they stumble upon Ryan's badly damaged body, sending them into shock. Near it, Sadie finds Richard's knife, making her fear the unthinkable, that her father could be responsible. Just then, the sheriff calls Cynthia, promising help is on the way. But first, they must find Richard and Danny. Moments later, they hear Danny again and discover him unconscious in the water. Cynthia pulls him out and revives him with CPR, breaking down in relief when he finally breathes. But behind Sadie, Richard suddenly appears, staring blankly as if lost in a nightmare. Terrified, Cynthia attacks him, believing he's behind everything. Richard foams at the mouth, hallucinating that Oscar the dog is lunging at him. In panic, he shoves Cynthia, badly injuring her leg. As soon as she gets the chance, Sadie knocks Richard unconscious with a stick. When he wakes, he's tied to a tree, no longer trusted. Sadie decides she and Danny will go for help, leaving Cynthia behind to watch him. She warns the kids, if night falls and they find no one, come back. Richard, delirious, begs them to untie him, ranting like a madman. As the children disappear into the woods, he screams that he's seen the devil and the forest is cursed, warning they must be stopped. But Cynthia refuses to believe him. According to her, Richard is sick. Convinced rabies has consumed him, she says coldly, "There's only one monster in these woods, and it's you." Richard breaks down in tears, swearing he would never harm his family. He begs Cynthia to untie him, warning that the real monster will end them all. Meanwhile, the police discover Zach's badly damaged body. One look is enough to convince them this was no bear attack. Elsewhere, Sadie nervously asks Danny if Richard pushed him into the water. Danny admits he doesn't remember, but recalls his father panicking and insisting something was chasing them. Back at camp, Cynthia is in agony. She bites down on a stick, trying to set her broken bone. but the pain makes her faint. In that moment, Richard once again sees the devil, screaming for Cynthia to wake up. He insists the creature has haunted him since childhood. Whether real or imagined, it pushes him to the brink. With a surge of desperation, Richard snaps his ropes. His behavior grows erratic as he pleads with Cynthia, saying he only wants to keep them safe. For Cynthia, it's unbearable. She no longer knows if her husband is delusional or dangerous. In fear, she strikes him on the head with a rock, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, Sadie injures her leg after slipping, and just as danger closes in, a hunter suddenly appears and saves the siblings. He urges them to follow him. At the same time, Sheriff Winters finds Richard's knife near Ryan's body. Now convinced Richard is responsible, he orders all campsites evacuated. The scene cuts back to Richard, lying unconscious after Cynthia's blow. Cynthia struggles to get up, but a shadow appears behind her, making her scream. Sadie, Danny, and the police hear it and rush toward the sound. Richard, foaming at the mouth and clutching a sharp stick, stumbles through the woods, haunted by terrifying visions. When he sees his children, he reaches out to hug them, only for Cynthia, injured and limping, to appear behind them. Everyone panics, believing Richard is the one who hurt her. The hunter aims his rifle at Richard, ordering him to back away. But Richard, desperate to prove himself, refuses. A fight breaks out, and Richard overpowers the man before running after his family. Soon, both Richard and the police converge on Cynthia and the kids. Pointing a gun, Richard looks terrifying until it becomes clear he's aiming not at them, but at the creature behind them. At last, Cynthia and the children see it too. The Jersey Devil is real. Sadie is horrified, and even one of the officers catches a glimpse of the beast. But in the chaos, another officer mistakes Richard for the threat and shoots him. The gunshot enrages the devil, which immediately attacks the police. One officer is torn apart, while the other flees in terror. Richard and Cynthia, gravely wounded, cling to each other. Cynthia regrets not believing him sooner, but Richard forgives her with his final strength. As the screen closes, the devil lunges toward the family, ending the story on a chilling note.